Welcome to Disciple Parenting. I'm Ben Martin, and we're going to be talking about today, what does success mean in parenting? So if you haven't already subscribed, please do, and hit that bell notification because you're not going to want to miss the videos that are coming up. But have you ever stopped to think about how do we actually define success as parents? It's not cut and dry, is it? And so in this video, that is exactly what we're going to talk about. Let's get into it. Success isn't always easily defined. I mean, as Christian parents, of course, we want to say success is raising children who are disciples of Jesus Christ, but that's not something we can guarantee. That's not something that we can necessarily produce. And so we actually have to redefine what success is, because if we leave success as just simply raising disciples of Jesus Christ, which would be awesome, don't get me wrong, many of us would be left feeling full of guilt and shame because those aren't decisions we can make. We've got children who we're raising to make their own decisions. And although it would be wonderful if they made that decision, that's not something we can control. So how should we define success? It's a good question. First of all, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room, of course, is the proverb, train up a child in the way he or she should go. And when he or she grows old, he or she will not depart from it. And this is something we all know. And so therefore, we think that there must be this perfect formula for parenting. And if we can crack that code, if we can figure out that perfect formula, if we can work it all out, then we too will have children who grow up knowing only Jesus, which would be absolutely awesome. But if you have more than one kid, you all of a sudden realize there is no perfect code. What worked for your first child will not work for your second, and what worked for the second isn't going to work for the first, because each and every child is unique and different, and the strategies that are employed are different. And so trying to figure out what is this perfect code, what is this formula that if I follow, well, that's not real. And so I think the first thing you have to take into account is, although this is a beautiful proverb, proverbs and promises aren't the same thing. God isn't saying, hey, if you do your job just right, everything's going to go just exactly as planned, because that's not how life actually works. Everyone has their own ability to choose. And you can take the most perfect parents and their children can still make choices that are completely counter to what the parents wanted. It's life. And we can all think of some decisions we made that our parents weren't crazy about, or decisions our children are making that we're not always crazy about. So how should we define success? Maybe instead of defining success as perfect children or children who become these perfect disciples of Jesus Christ, we need to stop looking at our children for what success is and rather look at our own lives. Instead of being perfect parents, we should be faithful parents. And maybe that's what it means to be a perfect parent. Maybe we need to redefine success as being faithful to God, as following Him more closely, as deepening our relationship with Him. Because after all, that's actually the best way to lead our children into a relationship with Him, is model it for them. Let our children, let our boys and our girls see this is what it looks like to follow Jesus. Be real with your relationship with Jesus. Being a faithful parent is actually what success should be. And if you don't believe that there still is no formula out there, let's take a look at Jesus, the God of the universe. He had 12 disciples. You couldn't be a better parent than he was. He said all the right things. He did all the right things. He loved them unconditionally. He taught them all the right things. And when it came down to it, Judas betrayed him, Peter denied him, and the other 10 abandoned him. Let's be honest. And although, yes, Peter and those other 10, they came back, it wasn't a 100% success rate. And if Jesus didn't have a 100% success rate because his disciples had freedom of choice, how can we, as Christian parents, imagine that we're going to have a better success rate? And if that's not enough for you, look at the Garden of Eden, where again, the God of the universe had Adam and Eve, children. And he raised them and he taught them, these are the boundaries, these are the rules. And both of them, both Adam and Eve, chose not to follow God. I know that might sound absolutely terrible. As a parent who's trying to raise 2 boys, it's terrifying at times to think about them choosing not to follow Jesus. But instead of fixating on what is the right formula, what's that right equation, what's that code that I need to crack to get them to follow Jesus, instead, I need to be looking at Jesus myself. How can I follow him better? How can I be a better disciple for my boys? This is the question parents really should be asking. How can I be a more faithful disciple? How can I be a more faithful parent? How can I follow Jesus closer? So as we embark on yet another new year, my challenge for you as parents is stop trying to be perfect. Instead, let's focus on being faithful. Will you do that with me?